Could you explain to me, why do you think people are paying up to £5,000 to get here illegally rather than pay 28 quid on a Wizz Air flight from Albania?
It's exactly what I have asked just from the beginning, because they don't have the possibility to apply for legal migration. That's the problem.
Why can't they visit the country for £28, travel on a plane for £28, come, i.e. on a holiday, and then claim asylum? Why can't they do that?
Why would someone pay £5,000 to smugglers when a legal flight costs just £28? Lee Anderson's question left the Albanian ambassador visibly uncomfortable, struggling for an answer that never came. In this explosive exchange, Anderson tears through diplomatic niceties to expose what many suspect. Illegal migration isn't just about seeking a better life. The silence speaks volumes as the ambassador fails to explain why thousands bypass legal routes in favour of dangerous channel crossings. What are they hiding? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Last year, a staggering wave of nearly 1 million migrants entered Britain's shores, quadrupling pre-2019 figures. These aren't just cold statistics, they represent a fundamental shift in the nation's demographic landscape.
If they come legally and produce a passport and documents, that our authorities, our border control, know exactly who these people are, where they're from, and any activities, illegal activities they may be involved in the past. Do you think that may be the reason?
I don't have this information.
No, you do have this information. Why can't they do that?
Well, I can't suppose why they do that. Well, I don't have any answer for
Why not? Why don't you have an answer for that?
Because I don't know people that are coming legally apply for asylum.
Behind these numbers lies a disturbing reality that most politicians dare not acknowledge. But Lee Anderson isn't most politicians. In a parliamentary exchange that left viewers stunned, Anderson confronted the Albanian ambassador with brutal simplicity. Why would someone pay criminal gangs £5,000 for a dangerous channel crossing when a legitimate flight costs merely £28? The question hung in the air, met with uncomfortable silence and diplomatic squirming. This wasn't just an awkward moment, it was the exposure of a system designed to obscure rather than illuminate. The ambassador's inability to provide a straightforward answer speaks volumes. When pressed on the stark price discrepancy, he retreated into vague platitudes about complex issues and multifaceted challenges, the typical bureaucratic shield deployed when truth becomes inconvenient. But Anderson, refusing to accept these empty phrases, continued pressing where others might have politely retreated. What makes the £28 versus £5,000?
It's my theory that people come in and paying thousands of pounds to get here illegally, making a perilous journey, probably quite a high proportion of those are going to be involved in some sort of criminal activity when they get here. Would you think that's correct? Well, you don't know very much, do you, Ambassador? I'll give you another question. Is it fair for the British taxpayer to spend millions and millions of pounds putting up Albanians who've come from a safe country in hotels?
The answer is that no one came here to be involved in criminal activity, because in general they know what happened if you are involved in criminal activity.
Comparison so devastating isn't merely the financial absurdity. It's the uncomfortable question that naturally follows. What exactly are these migrants hiding that makes them willing to risk death and pay criminal organisations 178 times the cost of legal travel? The logical conclusion is unavoidable. Many are concealing criminal connections, false identities, or histories that would automatically disqualify them from legal entry. Anderson methodically dismantled the prevailing narrative of desperate people seeking better opportunities. The reality he exposed is far darker. Sophisticated criminal networks exploiting vulnerable individuals while enabling those with questionable backgrounds to circumvent proper vetting procedures. These trafficking gangs don't merely transport people, they maintain a stranglehold on Albanian communities through intimidation, blackmail and violence. The parliamentary exchange highlighted the human cost of this criminal enterprise. Young Albanian men and families packed onto flimsy, overcrowded dinghies, facing treacherous waters and potential death. All unnecessarily when safe, legal travel options exist. Yet the ambassador appeared more concerned with diplomatic niceties than addressing the exploitation of his own citizens. Perhaps the most revealing moment came when Anderson questioned whether Albania should contribute financially toward housing their migrants in the UK. The ambassador's silence on this point was deafening. Not a single commitment, not even acknowledgement of shared responsibility. This illustrates a pattern extending far beyond this single confrontation. foreign governments expecting Britain to shoulder the entire burden of migration while accepting none of the financial responsibility themselves. The implications reach far beyond immediate immigration concerns. Each asylum seeker costs British taxpayers approximately £13,000 annually just for accommodation, not including healthcare, education or other services. Multiply this by hundreds of thousands, and the financial strain becomes crippling. Meanwhile, criminal trafficking organisations pocket billions, while governments on both sides engage in responsibility-dodging diplomatic theatre. Anderson's confrontation pierced through layers of political pretense to expose something more systemic. The migration crisis isn't merely about seeking better economic opportunities. It's fundamentally intertwined with organised crime, governmental failures, and diplomatic evasion. The criminal networks facilitating these journeys have tentacles extending throughout European capitals, corrupting officials and undermining border security across the continent. The ambassador's evasiveness during this exchange reflects a broader pattern of international diplomacy on migration. One where hard questions are deflected, difficult truths remain unspoken, and political correctness trumps factual accuracy. Yet the consequences of this collective avoidance strategy are increasingly impossible to ignore as British communities struggle with housing shortages, strained public services, and integration challenges. What Anderson's questioning illuminated most clearly is that the current system benefits everyone except ordinary citizens. Trafficking gangs profit enormously. Politicians avoid uncomfortable discussions by hiding behind humanitarian rhetoric, and foreign governments export their problems without consequence. Meanwhile, British taxpayers foot the astronomical bill, while watching their communities transform without their consent or input. This pattern extends throughout Europe, where similar conversations are suppressed through accusations of xenophobia or racism. The result is a continent-wide failure to address the criminal networks operating with near impunity. These organisations have professionalised human smuggling to an unprecedented degree, complete with marketing campaigns on social media, money-back guarantees, and sophisticated logistics operations. The sovereignty implications cannot be overstated. A nation unable to control who enters its borders effectively surrenders a fundamental aspect of self-governance. Britain's island geography once provided natural protection, but modern trafficking networks have transformed the channel into a highway for illegal entry. Each successful crossing signals to thousands more that UK borders are permeable, creating a self-perpetuating cycle that shows no sign of abating. Anderson's confrontation with the Albanian ambassador cuts through the diplomatic fog that typically obscures immigration debates. It's precisely this kind of unfiltered exchange that reveals the uncomfortable truths politicians prefer to sidestep. What makes Anderson's approach remarkable is his willingness to call for a complete reset of failed policies. In his own words, it's time to turn the page on the Conservative government's disastrous handling of migration, what he aptly termed an open borders experiment that has categorically failed. The numbers tell the devastating story. Migration has exploded fourfold since 2019, with nearly 1 million arrivals in the year, ending June 2023 alone.